Hey everybody, what's happening? Chris Fitzpatrick back once again from Chris Fitzpatrick Speaks to cover another really interesting topic with you today. Thank you so much for following along and checking out the video. Today we're going to be covering the topic of networking and building a personal brand. On Wednesday, March 22nd, I had a really cool opportunity to go back to my alma mater, which is Montclair State University in New Jersey, where I graduated back in 2004 with an undergraduate degree in business administration. And I got to keynote on this topic with the Future Alumni Network, as well as the Office of Alumni Relations, where my good friend Kara Brennan did a fantastic job bringing together not just a group of students that wanted to know about the importance and the value of networking, but also brought alumni from a variety of diverse different roles and industries to talk to the students a little bit and provide them some of their advice and perspective. So first of all, thank you to Kara and the folks at Montclair for having me back on March 22nd to keynote. It was a lot of fun. It was a really cool event. But it also gave me a chance to take a moment and stop and really think about the concepts of networking and personal branding. And what I wanted to do for everybody here in this video is distill that into some actionable items that you all can use when you go about networking. What's great about this video is that whether you're a college student, a high school student, maybe you're an early career professional, or maybe you're fair way down into your professional career, there are going to be tips and tricks here and some pieces of information that should benefit you in some way. As a matter of fact, we're going to touch on 7 really specific tips of networking and personal branding that I think will be able to help you along the way. I want to start first by reminding you that if you haven't already done so, please hit the subscribe button and hit the bell so that way you know when I come up with new content. I try to do these weekly. I also try and do some mailbags, some answers to questions that people send me. So please definitely just check out that YouTube channel and subscribe if you can. Share it with anybody you think might be able to get some value from it. Whether you are a career services professional, maybe you're a student yourself, or just somebody who thinks that somebody else in your network might be able to utilize this information. If it can be helpful, then please share it away. All right, so now to go into our 7 topics of networking and personal branding, I want to ask everyone out there to finish this sentence for me. It's not what you know. I think most people know that the end of that is it's who you know, right? So it's not what you know, it's who you know. And this phrase has existed for a long time. I don't know how far back it goes, but I have some good news and I have some bad news for you. The bad news first. It's true. But the good news is it's also false. It's half true, right? So when somebody says it's not what you know, it's who you know, it's actually both. It is what you know, and it is who you know. So it's a half-truth. I think the phrase originated as kind of a scoffing comment, usually the combination of a commentary on the existence of privilege, which is true, right? It exists, and as well as the frustration with one's own ability to succeed and to get ahead in the world when other people succeed. I think most rational people understand that the playing field is just not naturally equal for all people in society, that there are a lot of inequities, and some of the work that I do with, for example, diversity, equity, and inclusion is my way of trying to even that playing field as much as we can. But at the end of the day, the truth is, on a local scale, on a global scale, some people just begin their journeys better equipped and better connected than others. And that's often through no fault of their own. So short of being able to get to a point in society where we can eliminate all these barriers and everybody starts on this equal footing, sitting back and dismissing the success of others as a pure function of privilege really doesn't solve anything. So we have to attack that as well and consider the fact that it's not what you know, it's who you know is often somebody's way of saying, well, this person is ahead of me because they know somebody that helped them along the way, and that's why they are where they are and I am where I am. That's not necessarily going to solve any issues. A lot of times what happens is that folks who are in positions of success understand that it is both what you know and who you know. It's very difficult to get ahead in the world with no skill whatsoever, even though some areas of social media try to convince us otherwise. You really do need to know both things and people, and this is where networking comes into play. So for anybody out there who wants to be part of that, it is what you know and who you know, networking is going to be how you get there. So I want to encourage you to cultivate, plan, prune, and with great intentionality, really sharpen these skills. So remember that. It is what you know. It is who you know. upskilling and networking as a concerted effort together are going to help bring you a greater degree of success. Number 2, you don't spend time networking, you invest it. You spend money on candy. You invest in a savings account. There is a chasm of difference between the two, and as with any investment, resources are finite. When it comes to investing in a network, we only have so much time, we only have so much energy, we only have so much attention to go around. I know we like to think that we can network infinitely and just spread ourselves thin, but the fact is we have limits, we're humans. And so we don't always have enough resources to go around. So allocating our resources is a balancing act. And to get it right, it takes intent, it takes deliberation, sometimes it also takes research. That doesn't mean that we refuse networking opportunities that present themselves, of course, but we need to consider how a new connection affects our overall network. Also, like investing, not every investment opportunity is worth investing in. Your network is not and should not be boundaryless. If you feel a connection is not appropriate for your particular network, you need to respect your boundaries. And if you don't respect your boundaries, other people won't either. Number 3, networking is not a quantity game, it's a quality game. One of the many negative byproducts of social media, and there are plenty, is how we've been conditioned to quantify success by collecting likes or comments or retweets. Statistics certainly have their place. I've been a victim of it personally, and I've certainly perpetuated it a bit. But when it comes to networking, the largest numbers, they don't always equate to the best network. Influencers with thousands or even millions of followers probably aren't going to directly interact with a large percentage of that group. And the chances that they're going to have a profound, direct, individual influence on you are pretty limited. Having a small circle of dedicated contacts in your network whom you trust and you value will probably end up meaning more than collecting business cards. This is one of the pieces of advice I gave the students at that Montclair State University networking event, is that your goal is not to be the one who collects the most business cards. Your goal is to be the one that makes as many meaningful connections with the people behind those cards. If you were to ask any salesperson out there what's more important, collecting a business card from a new contact or making a meaningful connection with that person, they will all tell you that it's the latter. Focus on quality and then let the quantity be whatever it's going to be. Number 4, utilize all 4 forms of communication. Anyone who's watched more than one of these videos here knows that I talk about this a lot. The 4 forms of communication are critical to almost everything I'm going to talk about, right? Your verbal communication, number 1, those are the words you choose. That's your vocabulary, your tempo, your volume, your pitch, your variation. And in networking, it's also how formal or how casual you are in your speech. You can vary that also, right? Not every networking environment is going to be exactly the same. Some are going to naturally be more formal. Some are naturally going to be more casual. Some are going to be a little bit more intimate, and some of them are going to be more sprawling, and they're going to involve a lot more people and a lot more volume and a lot more to do. Some networking opportunities, you're going to have more time to focus on one individual person. Other opportunities, you're going to be spreading yourself a little bit thin. So you need to also be flexible with that a little bit and then adjust your verbal communication accordingly. Then, of course, your nonverbal communication is everything that surrounds the words that you choose. This includes your posture, your attire, your eye contact, any hand gestures and body language that you use, proximity, so much more. Your written communications, number 3. That's your email, your text messaging, any documents you write, anything that you put into writing and send to a receiver to communicate with them. And then, of course, most important is your listening skill. Whether you're networking, your active and, if you remember last week's video, your impactive listening skill may be the most important skill at your disposal. So invest yourself in listening to others and respond when appropriate. Don't interrupt or wait for your turn to speak when you should be processing what is being said and how it is being said and why it is being said. Listening skills are critical in a networking environment. Next up, it takes years to build a great personal brand, but it only takes moments to destroy it. Very important to remember this. I want you to think about it this way. From this moment on, you are the CEO of You Incorporated. You actually have been for a long time, pretty much since you were born, But just in case nobody told you, congratulations. You're now a CEO. You are in charge of your own personal brand. One important lesson that companies have had to learn for years is that brands are not built in minutes. It takes consistent, deliberate effort to build a personal brand, but far less time to damage it. I know it seems a little unfair, but it's true. Brand building is also a 24/7, 365 job. Being aware of your interactions and how they can affect your brand is a very important skill to develop, and it's rooted in that concept of emotional intelligence. Remember, your emotional intelligence, that's your self-awareness, that's your self-management, that's your social awareness, so being aware of other people's emotions and how they might affect you, and social management or social skills. Networking is an opportunity to continue to build and share your brand. If you were to Google yourself, do you like the representation of your brand? Be aware of it and understand what you need to do in order to have a certain degree of control over what your brand says about you. Next in the networking discussion, I want you to ask yourself these 3 really important questions. What am I proud of? What am I good at? And what do I want to work on? These 3 questions are helpful preparing for both networking interactions, but also interviews as well. By asking yourself what you're proud of, you're asking yourself about the story that you want to tell other people. It also reminds you that you have something to be truly proud of, and that's very important when inviting others into your network. You can't sell others on the value of your brand if you wouldn't buy it yourself. So please take a moment, think about something you're proud of, and go into your networking interactions prepared with that thought, even if you don't necessarily have to talk about it. The next 2 questions, what am I good at and what do I want to work on? They run parallel to everybody's favorite interview questions. What are your strengths and what are your weaknesses? Those are the questions that I hear most often from college students are the ones that keep them up at night. So let's talk a little bit about that. In an interview setting, you may find yourself discussing these directly. When asked about what your strengths or weaknesses are, you may find yourself having to directly address that exact topic. But in a networking setting, being keenly aware of your strengths and weaknesses is to also allow yourself to be aware of how networks can be mutually beneficial. Let me give you an example. If somebody in a networking discussion shares a challenge that they're having with you, they're talking about something they're working on or that they want to get better at, and you recognize that that's a strength of yours, well, great news. Now you have something to offer in that network. You have value to provide that other person, which is critical in networking. On the other side, if someone else is discussing a strength of theirs that you believe is something that you want to work on and is a weakness of yours, great news. Now you can ask for advice. You can say to that other person, wow, how wonderful it is to hear that you're good at that because that's something that I've really been trying to work on. How did you get so good at that skill? What advice might you give me? That's one of the real values of networking, is how you can help work on each other's gaps. And then last but not least, this one might be the most important. Never sell yourself or others short in a networking environment. You deserve to be in that conversation. You are worthy of that seat at the table. And even if you weren't, who cares? As my motivational speaking coach, Dr. Rob Gilbert, always used to say, act as if. Did Rocky Balboa belong in the ring with Apollo Creed in Rocky 1? Doesn't matter. He didn't care. He was there. Focus on being authentic and honest. Give generously to other people in your network. Don't create a network simply expecting others to do for you if you aren't going to be willing to do for them. And give of yourself freely without expectation of reciprocation. Be inclusive. Seek out a diverse network to ensure that you learn from a wide range of perspectives and not just a network of people who are exactly like you. Because honestly, if your network is a bunch of people exactly like you, how are you really going to grow? Treat other people with respect, and you should expect that other people will do the same for you. Networks should be safe spaces. Even if you're a little anxious about them, you should still be able to go into a networking conversation, able to be authentic and able to be a little bit vulnerable while still also being safe. Make sure you're also providing that for other people. So there are 7 tips on effective networking and personal branding. I wish you all the best with them. I hope they provide some value and impact to you. Once again, please don't forget to subscribe and share. And as always, I really appreciate that you spend some time with me. We'll talk to you again real soon.